Hey y'all, it's me Tony and I'm back with a new video for Married to Medicine. I'm going to be recapping this reunion part 2, and before I start, make sure you guys like and subscribe because I will be dropping more content for you all. So we're still talking about Contessa and Heavenly. And again, Contessa is basically saying that, Damon might be cheating. The rumors may be true. And she hopes that he is getting a little bit of joy because Heavenly seems like a miserable person to be married to. And Heavenly immediately claps back. Like, one thing about Dr. Heavenly, she's going to respond. If you go low, she goes lower. So she says, Contessa, your breasts look botched. And if you know Married to Medicine, you know that Contessa had a surgery to remove her actual breast and breast tissue because she's like genetically more prone to developing breast cancer. Her mother died from it. So Contessa had like reconstructive surgery after removing her breast to prevent getting breast cancer. And Contessa definitely brings that up. She's like, I literally had surgery, to prevent from getting breast cancer, and you're saying that my breasts are ugly. Now, I do feel like that was a low blow. I do feel like that was harsh what Heavenly said, but I also feel like Contessa was wrong too. You can't tell this woman that you hope her husband is cheating and he is getting some joy because she's so miserable to be married to, but then you get so like offended when she claps back. Now, normally Contessa like really drags something out when, Heavenly does say something, but this time I don't think she dragged it out too far. And maybe it's because she knew like, hey, you literally just said you hope that he is cheating. Like, come on now. But anywho, they're still going on back and forth, and honestly, it's just so old and draining. And Jackie just stops them. She's like getting all emotional and her voice is shaking. She's like, I want you guys to think about it. Like, you guys were really friends at one point. Like, you guys have to look back and look at where you were. So that kind of softens both of the ladies out. And Contessa's like, hey, overall, like, it is what it is. Like, there was love there, but you look great tonight. You look beautiful. And Heavenly's like, thank you, you do too. And then Contessa's like, well, so do my breasts. And they just pretty much ended it right there. And I was happy because this is getting so draining. Contessa and Heavenly have fell out since season 9. Like, please let it go. So Annie brings up Sweet Tea and Heavenly and how they've been having beef at the beginning of the season and their men getting dragged into it. Now, Andy brings up a lot of like horrific things that Heavenly was saying about Sweet Tea's husband. And honestly, I kind of understand where Heavenly is coming from. I don't agree with her going pretty low, but we have to admit, or at least if you do some research, just pull up what Sweet Tea either says on YouTube or whatnot. Sweet Tea definitely goes back and forth with Heavenly. Like they go back and forth with each other. I'm not saying who's starting it, who's in it, but they go back and forth and they go low, okay? And Heavenly usually responds. You said that Heavenly wasn't well respected as a doctor in the community, and Heavenly said it back about your husband. Now, did she have to add on the P word hashtag? She made a tweet and she was speaking about Greg and she used hashtag P. She was calling him the P word. Is that right? No. But I think that Heavenly meant they have such a big age gap. Like, Dr. G and T has such a big age gap. That's what I think she was trying to imply with the P word. Not like he's literally a P, but his age gap is so significant with Sweet Tea. She's just kind of making like a mockery of their marriage. Now, is it inappropriate? Absolutely. You can't say things like that, or you can't even imply or make a joke because people will take those things literally. But I also feel like T has to also be respectful. Like, you can't make fun of this woman's career as a dentist because, come on, like, that's her bread and butter. She worked hard to get to where she is. So overall, I just feel like there's always like this thing where people are mad at Heavenly when it comes to Sweet Tea, but people don't really see the things that T does, or they just don't acknowledge it because Heavenly has a long history of going low. And Andy has a question for Jackie asking, how come she didn't check Heavenly for making comments about T's fertility issues? And he reads the tweet or something that Heavenly said, saying that Heavenly's deceased mother has a better chance in hell reproducing a child than Sweet Tea does. And Heavenly corrects Andy. She says, no, this girl said my mom is in hell, and mind you, her mom had just passed away. You said that my mom is dead and in hell, and I responded by saying my mom in hell has a better chance of having a baby than you do. Now, this just proves my point again. Sweet Tea has a habit of going low and Heavenly goes lower. It doesn't matter who it is. If you say something low to Heavenly, she's gonna go lower. That's just her personality. And I don't agree with the whole coddling and babying Tea and, like she needs to be held. I don't look, if you get in the kitchen, be prepared for the heat. But Heavenly still apologizes overall for the whole P comment with Dr. G, and she admits that it was wrong. And even though Sweet Tea was saying things and she responded back, she just felt sorry for it and she didn't have a problem with T. And T accepts it. She just says okay. So they bring out Dr. Mimi and she looks fabulous. All the ladies pretty much like her. They're all saying positive things about her and how much they enjoy her on the show. Even Dr. Heavenly says that she's gotten really good advice from Dr. Mimi. So it's great to see that she meshes with this group. And hopefully she ends up coming back because I feel like we could use some new strong faces in the group. But needless to say, they're asking Quad, like, hey, how is Dr. Mimi? Is she pretty fun? And Quad is like, yes, Dr. Mimi is super fun. Like, she's a good time to be had. She's super fun to go out with. Andy asks Dr. Mimi to describe each lady with, like, one word or a short diagnosis. And she speaks about all of them, and she pretty much hits the nail on the head. She says that Heavenly has to work on her inner child. She says that Dr. Jackie is very precise and direct when she speaks. When she describes Quad, she describes grief. I can't remember what she said about Simone, but it was true. We all know that Simone be bitter in her feelings. She told T that T, if you need help, you have to tell your friends how you need help. And she told Contessa that you have a lot of energy and make sure you're not just like misusing it or don't get distracted. Make sure you put it in the right places. She also told Toya, you don't need validation. You've got it. Like, you don't need any more validation. And I think she was saying, we all know Toya has a history of being materialistic on the show. Look, we know you've got the money now. We know you made it. We know you came up. We know you're proud. No need to keep trying to prove it. You don't have to move every 2 years. You don't need a Birkin baby shower. But overall, Mimi is a great fit for the show. I also like her husband. He keeps it very real. So I really hope Mimi comes back next season. So now we have the guys segment, and it's just, pretty awkward. We all know Dr. G has tension with King and Dr. Damon. And Dr. Damon this is the most vocal I've ever seen Dr. Damon. Andy is asking him, about him and Dr. G's relationship. And Dr. Damon is just calling it out. He's like, hey, you had issues with my wife and what my wife was saying, but you took it out on the patients. I was referring you patients and you wouldn't even accept them. And you couldn't even be a man and tell me you weren't going to take my patients anymore. And for those of you who don't know, Dr. Damon is like a pain medicine doctor, and Dr. G is a psychiatrist, so he can actually medicate patients who need like mental health prescriptions. And I have to say, Dr. G not accepting Damon's patients just because he was upset, that's really hurting yourself and the patients. It's not really hurting Dr. Damon. I mean, it may hurt his feelings because he does care about his patients, but you're hurting the patients more and hurting yourself more because you could use those patients financially, that's you skipping out on money. But Dr. G is pretty much just downplaying it. He's acting like, oh, he didn't do it out of spite. He just was super busy, and Damon's patients were just like, they needed too much. He's just making up excuses. That's what I felt. It definitely seemed like he was making up excuses. Damon, and then he's like, well, Damon, you didn't really stand up for me. And Damon's like, your wife has said things about me. She said that I'm a cheater, this and that. There's nothing that your wife can say that would actually hurt my feelings or make me feel away because, it just wouldn't matter. Like, and mind you, the allegations that she's made have been BS. And I understand where Damon is coming from, but I think he also has to just really admit, yes, my wife was wrong for the line she made. And he kind of does admit, like, yeah, she was out of line for that. But I also feel like Damon is a real man who's going to stand beside his wife. And rightfully so. Real men do stick beside their wife. Heavenly, stop putting Dr. Damon in these uncomfortable situations where he has to defend you, girl. But overall, I think people are really just going to start seeing that Dr. G is just a character. Like, he laughs in Dr. Damon's face when Damon's like, you never told me you weren't going to accept the patients. And G is trying to gaslight him like how he gaslights T. And he's like, yeah, I did, Damon. And then Dr. Damon's like, no, what about integrity? Integrity. And Dr. G just bursts out laughing. He's so immature. He's the only man laughing. Like, everyone else has a straight face. And he's just laughing. I'm like, okay, this guy is just super petty and immature at his age. Like, he acts like a kid. Andy gets a question that's saying, well, Quad seems like she's really happy with her man. So when she was bragging about him during the game in Key West, maybe she was just really happy and in love. And that has nothing to do with Dr. G. And Curtis says, well, Quad had to just sit there and take it when Greg came back to the group and brought his new wife. And the scene actually cuts to the camera with the ladies where they're sitting in the other room. And we get to see Quad agreeing with what Curtis is saying. She's like, that part. And the other ladies are just quiet, like we all know it's true. But here comes Simone. Y'all know Simone hates Quad for whatever reason. Simone is like, well, no, they weren't really around each other whenever he would say it. They weren't in the same room. And then Simone is just, why do you have to get involved and just why? But anywho, Quad tells her, like, shut up, like, shut the F up. She's over it, and I don't blame her. Like, she's had to literally sit there and take Simone's mouth for seasons, in my opinion. Simone will literally reach very low and say nasty things to Quad. And I'm not saying that, Quad is some like squeaky angel, but from what I haven't really seen Quad do anything so bad to Simone to warrant that behavior. Well, whatever reason, Quad saying shut the F up just made Simone jump out of her seat like she's a fighter all of a sudden and not a doctor. I remember Simone being on the show and saying that she's not fighting and no one's going to fight her on this show. But she's rising up out of her seat like she's ready to destroy Quad. I mean, she's acting like she's been practicing for this moment. She's like, you gave us your blank to kiss, so we hung out with Greg, and we hang out with whoever we want to hang out with and bring them back in, and that's what you get. This is your karma. And Quad has had enough, rightfully so. Quad is giving her that energy right back. She is like, you dirty bee. Oh my gosh. The way Quad said it came out of her chest like she meant it. And I don't blame her, rightfully so. It's about time Dr. Simone gets checked because you cannot keep bucking up at people, getting loud, screaming, and acting a fool. It's unacceptable. Quad was not backing down. And guys, I don't know if y'all remember, but when Dr. Contessa first had her breast surgery, I remember Dr. Simone getting in her face and screaming. If I was Contessa, I would have thrown Simone overboard. Simone has a bad habit of being aggressive and loud. Like, please stop because you're not about that life. But everyone is getting in the middle of them, trying to separate them. I mean, it's really like about to get physical, but luckily Quad has a lot of restraint because I think if it were a Toya or if it was pretty much anyone on the Real Housewives of Atlanta cast, Simone would have been in a coma. But overall, that's where the scene pretty much leaves off. We just know it's going to get worse between Dr. Simone and Quad. I have to also mention, too, Quad was telling Simone, like, I was there for you. Like, when your dad was missing, who was there with you looking for your dad? It was me. And Simone is so upset. Don't talk about my dad. Don't talk about my dad. But remember last reunion when Simone brought up Quad's niece that passed? So it's just the double standards for me. I almost didn't even want to watch this episode because it's just so much dark energy. I think they really need a cast shakeup, and I think Simone should probably be the first to go. But you guys tell me what you all think in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I will definitely be delivering more content. Bye.